Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel and Happy New Year. We hope you all had a good holiday season. Today we're here with one of the ultimate winter comfort foods, soup. This is not just any soup though, it is kul og meatball soup, which basically just means meatball and dumpling soup. In Denmark, you can find frozen packs of these meatballs and dough dumplings, and then you can add them right into your soup so that it's a really easy meal. This homemade version does involve a little bit more effort, but we promise it's worth it. It is hearty and comforting and just what you need now that it's the middle of January and we have a lot more winter to go. If you want to learn how to make this soup, keep on watching. Before we kick off the recipe, we have a large pot that's filled maybe a third to halfway full of water. We're going to start heating this up to bring it to a boil. We're going to cook both the flour dumplings and the meatballs in the water. All right, for the Melboller or the flour dumplings that are going into the soup, you're going to need 150 grams of flour, 100 tablespoons. No. 100 grams of unsalted butter, 3 large eggs, 240 milliliters of water, half a teaspoon of salt. You're also going to need a small pot or saucepan because we're combining this sort of like you would a choux pastry, which means starting out on the stove. Into our small pot, we're going to add our water along with our butter and our salt. And now we're going to turn it on medium heat. Okay, the butter is melted and it's definitely pretty much boiling, so I'm going to turn this down a little bit. What we're going to do is add in our flour, stirring vigorously with the spatula to get all the flour to absorb. And it should really start to thicken up. If it's not thickening up, you may want to turn up the heat a little bit. And we're just gonna stir this for a few minutes, making sure nothing's sticking to the bottom, waiting until all the flour has been absorbed, there are no spots, and it's no longer sticking to the edges of our pot. All right, I'm just turning the heat off. So now we're gonna remove this from the stove. We're gonna let this cool down for around 5 to 10 minutes, just so that when we add our eggs to the dough, it doesn't get scrambled in there. So be back in 5 to 10 minutes. I'll make sure it's cooled down a little bit. So now I'm just gonna transfer it to a bowl. This is really just because it's easier to see on the video. You can definitely just leave it in the same pot. Now we're gonna start adding our eggs one at a time. So as soon as we add the egg, we're gonna stir vigorously and incorporate it, making sure that it doesn't scramble because it's still a little bit warm. And then we're just gonna repeat until all of the eggs have been added. All right, we have more of a dough-like consistency here now that all the eggs have been added in. So now we are ready to form the flour dumplings. There are a few different ways that you can make these meatballs, but the way that we do it is by using 2 teaspoons, dipping them in water, and then forming a little oval ball using the spoons. And then we're gonna put them on this plate that has a little bit of oil on it just so that the dumplings don't stick together. You could also put your dough into a piping bag, pipe them over the boiling water while you cut pieces of dough off. That way it will take less time. Dipping them in the water first. We're gonna pick up about a spoonful of dough, and then we're just going to transfer it between the spoons to make more of an oval shape. and then repeat many times. I ended up filling 2 plates with these flour dumplings. So now we're gonna bring these over to the stove to cook them. Our water is boiling, so we're gonna add in our Meatball or flour dumplings and let them boil for 5 minutes, maybe a few extra, and then they should float to the top and be cooked through. Just gonna stir to make sure none are sticking together. Okay, it's been 5 minutes. They've all puffed up and are floating on the top of the surface. So now we're going to scoop them out onto a plate. Actually, I'm gonna cover this and save the water so that when the meatballs are ready to cook, this water will heat up really quickly. And I'm just gonna reuse the same water. I'm gonna set our lovely flour dumplings or Meatball aside just to cool while we make our meatballs. Okay, it's now time to make our meatballs. I know this is a bag of meat. This is around 680 grams or 1.5 pounds of ground pork. We're gonna need 1 whole onion, salt and pepper, a little bit of garlic powder, 1 large egg, 35 grams of all-purpose flour, and about 60 milliliters of milk. We're gonna mix everything together in a large mixing bowl. Okay, before we mix everything together, we're gonna finally dice our onion. Onion's going in. I'm just gonna roughly mix the egg in now. Now we're gonna add in about a teaspoon's worth of garlic powder. I don't really measure this out, I just add what I think is around a teaspoon. We're also adding our pepper and salt, flour, and last our milk. And now we're just gonna mix this until it comes together into a nice homogeneous mixture that holds together. That's looking pretty good to me. All right, we're ready to start rolling meatballs. I'm just gonna put them all on this plate when they're rolled. And also I have a little bit of oil to add to my hands so it's a little easier to roll. We have our mountain of meatballs ready to go, so now we're gonna head on over to the stove and cook these as well. I think I forgot to mention this, but make sure that your water is back up to a boil. And now we're gonna add in our meatballs. All right, now these are gonna cook in here for 5 to 10 minutes until they're fully cooked through. Our meatballs are cooked through the center, so I'm gonna turn off the heat and we're just gonna transfer them to a plate. So our meatballs and flour dumplings are done. What I'm gonna do today is actually take half of our meatballs and half of our flour dumplings, and I'm gonna freeze them for later. So then the other half will go to the soup once it's ready. This recipe does make a lot, which is why I'm kind of putting half away. But then it's also great because you've already done most of the work for the soup. Because I'm only putting half in the soup today, I am gonna adjust the amount of vegetables that go into the soup a little bit. So if you want the full amount, you can see the full recipe on our website. For the soup, I'm using 1 onion, 3 kind of short stalks of celery, 3 carrots that are peeled, And then I have a handful of parsley as well. You can add other vegetables if you like. You can do leeks, you can put peas in there. You can also add a bag of frozen vegetables to make it even easier. But I'm just gonna roughly chop everything into a size that I would like to eat in a soup. I got the veggies prepped and parsley chopped. I'm gonna set the parsley aside to add later, but let's head on over to the stove to start putting together our soup. All right, I got a pot on the stove. I'm gonna add in a little bit of oil and then turn it on medium heat. We're gonna add in our vegetables. We're just gonna cook these for around 5 minutes. It's been 5 minutes and our vegetables have softened a bit, so now we're gonna add a few seasonings, starting with around a teaspoon's worth of dried thyme. Gonna add in pepper and some salt. Now I'm gonna add in around 2 tablespoons of butter and let that melt. Now we're gonna add in 2 tablespoons of flour just to help thicken the soup up a little bit. And I'm gonna stir until the flour has coated everything. I'm gonna start adding some chicken stock. You can also use vegetable stock. And I'm probably gonna use this whole thing plus a little bit of water, so it's about 1 liter's worth of liquid. I'm going to add this while stirring so that the flour dissolves. And just a little bit at a time. Now that the flour has dissolved and there aren't any lumps, I'm gonna go ahead and add the rest of my stock. Now I'm going to bring this to a simmer and then we're gonna let it cook for 15 to 20 minutes. All right, the vegetables have softened, so now we're going to add in our Meatballer, or the flour dumplings and the meatballs, and we're gonna let them heat through. And I almost forgot, I'm gonna add in our fresh parsley as well. Everything in here has heated through and now we're ready to eat. All right, let's try it. It's the perfect winter or cold weather soup. You get some hearty protein and then you get the more filling dumplings. It's my dinner time now, so I'm gonna go eat this. Thank you so much for watching our video. We hope you try the soup. It's one of our childhood favorites. And we'll see you for the next video. Bye!